Good recording? Yeah, okay, perfect. Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the New Britain Township Board of Supervisors meeting here on February 5th. Would you all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. First on the agenda is chair comments. The Board of Supervisors met in the executive session today and on February 1st, 2024, to discuss personal matters and previously to this meeting. Second point, that we will be suspending the live broadcasting of township meetings until appropriate procedures can be implemented. The meetings will continue to be recorded as they are today, and they will be available on the township YouTube website within 24 to 48 hours. And last chair comment is public comment will be available at each agenda item as they come up. Please stand and state your name and address for the record. Okay, next on the agenda is 4, motion to consider consent agenda. First, we have motion A, resolution 2024-3, deed of dedication for Schoolhouse Estates - Schoolhouse Road right of way deed of dedication. Do we have any
I make that
description?
motion.
And do the second one too.
And
Do
the
them
second-
together,
And motion B, to consider the meeting minutes of January 2, 2024 Board of Supervisors reorganization meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Bill, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mary Beth? Any board comments, concerns, questions, corrections for the minutes?
Yes, for the minutes, I just note that we have stated that present were supervisors William Jones, Stephanie Shertle, and Mary Beth McCabe. And I think we should amend that to include both Cynthia and Bridget as being present.
Supervisor. They weren't supervisors.
Okay, just that they were present. I think that's important for the record.
Hang on a minute.
Mhm.
Okay,
Any other corrections for the minutes? I think we have one where the oaths of office should be Brooke Newborn.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. I didn't realize that hadn't got updated. It should be Brooke Newborn, BORN, not Newhouse.
Any other questions, concerns? Any questions regarding the first resolution, deed of dedication? Yep. Any public questions? No, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Passed 5-0. Okay, next on the agenda is presentations. The first one is from the Neshaminy Watershed Association, Ken Jones, President, and Karen Ogden, Bucks County Conservation District. Please come forward.
Good evening.
This is a draft resolution, it's gonna only this new, I think it's right, this is just one page, but they're. All right, thanks for having us. My name is Karen Ogden. I am the watershed specialist at Bucks County Conservation District. With Ken Jones, the watershed engagement. We've been talking for the last year or so with each other and others about building a consortium of people whose mission is to improve the Neshaminy watershed. And that's what we want to introduce you tonight. I want to make sure you understand this isn't an entity that already exists. We're looking to build it, and we're looking for the township to be represented in the process so that we can actually build something that works for the municipalities that make up the word. So with that, I'm gonna let Ken start.
Understand?
Yeah. You also have to-
You can sit.
I guess. So, good evening, everybody. I'd like to start off by introducing, I guess, the star of the presentation, which is the Neshaminy watershed. Just so that we're kind of all on the same page with what we're talking about here. So the Neshaminy is the largest watershed in Bucks County. It's about 236 square miles, so it's quite a large watershed. And the Neshaminy, that name derives from the Lenape Indian tribe. We believe the meaning of which is the place that we drink twice. So the west branch of the Neshaminy, I think we're all living where we live. We're all fairly familiar with the two branches of the Neshaminy. So the west branch actually begins as a spring underneath Lansdale. I have this on the good authority of Greg Rapp, who is the superintendent of the wastewater treatment system in Lansdale. He actually showed me where the spring comes out and sort of begins the west branch. The north branch begins in Plumstead Township. Those two branches come together at Twin Streams Park in Chalfont Borough. And the main branch, the main trunk of the Neshaminy, then flows down. It's joined by the Little Neshaminy and no less than 3 Mill Creeks flow into the Neshaminy. It then basically flows all the way down to the Delaware, where it's sort of at Ben Salem through Neshaminy State Park. So the Neshaminy watershed is part of the Delaware Basin. And there are, in fact, 27 municipalities in the Neshaminy watershed. So it's I think it's a pretty interesting story for Neshaminy. So, do you mind that? Yeah. So the way watersheds work, ideally, if they were all forested, is when it rains, those rainwaters they're land in the forest and they make their way down through the earth into the aquifer, and then that aquifer feeds the Neshaminy. It feeds the creek all year round. But what sort of humans have done, and we're all a part of this is the trade that we make with our modern living, is that now we've got all of this impervious surface in the form of, let's see, driveways, homes, pools, patios, even grass, even turf grass, can behave very much like an impervious surface. So that water now runs off fairly quickly, runs to the Neshaminy. Along the way, it picks up pollution. And so we end up with too many pollutants, a little too much volume and velocity. And what we're talking about there is basically, flashing events, flooding events, because we have more than 2-inch sort of rain events. A lot of water gets into the Neshaminy very, very quickly, and that causes erosion and all manner of other issues. I won't spend too much time tonight talking about the details of the problems, but I think you're all aware of some of the challenges. So, there are these issues, and they've affected kind of the habitat and the biodiversity in the Neshaminy. So, long and the short of it is that the majority of the Neshaminy is considered impaired by DEP. So, what we're proposing is, there are solutions to these problems. Now, I think you may have heard of some of these before, rain gardens, bioswales, rain barrels, riparian buffers, and so forth. All of these all of these approaches, these solutions are they have different costs, different complexity, different maintenance, but they all can apply to all of the problems that I just described. So there are approaches, methods, procedures to solving these problems, or at least, if not solving them, at least mitigating some of these problems. So, yep, let's keep going. So the good news is that there is a community of people who are interested in helping to solve some of these problems. I've mentioned in the past when I presented in front of the board the Penn State Extension program called the Master Watershed Stewards. They teach the lay public about watersheds and how they function and how we can do good work and improve them. And in return, those volunteers, those individuals have an ongoing volunteer obligation. So there are people who basically are looking for opportunities to do this kind of work. And in fact, there's money, there's grant sources, there's funding sources to pay for the materials to do these kind of projects. I think you're all aware of this, but I just want to, for the community here, make sure that that's well understood. So the Neshaminy Watershed Association, we have initiated 4 restoration projects in the township over the last few years, and all are progressing fairly well. In the last 4 years, you can see kind of on our picture here that there have been a number of initiatives outside of Newbury Township, right across the county. All kinds of these solutions have been implemented. The challenge is that in many cases, or in most cases, these projects, then they're really somewhat ad hoc. They happen because of relationships. My relationship to with the township and with the board has enabled us to bring resources and do some of these restoration projects. So while that's great, we think that there is an opportunity to be more strategic about where we do projects, what kind of work we do. So that's what's generated this idea of really sort of formalizing or creating this consortium idea that would allow us to help municipalities in a more sort of systematic and strategic way. And so I'll pass it over to Aaron to kind of talk about what the idea is.
So, progress is a patchwork. You've got the conservation community out there, they're already working. I'm not gonna claim to know your in-date business day in, day out, but I know that it entails a lot of the regulatory compliance and the serving your residents, flooding issues, stormwater issues, all of it, right? So I understand there's a lot going on. The idea, though, is that you as stakeholders, you're working hard, community of conservation-minded people is working hard. We all have similar interests. There's an intersection there. That this tries to show, whether it's parks and rec, outdoor recreation, passive recreation, pollinator gardens, bird watching opportunities, when you're trying to meet the needs of your community, you can also be meeting the needs of the watershed. So that's what we really want to bring home. And if we can partner, we can put together more effective projects and that can hopefully, and I may be jumping, not really, hopefully to hit your regulatory requirements and the public interest needs. There's data there, but we just need to get the people around the table to identify them and move good ideas forward. And outcomes, as science-minded folks, we want to, data-based decision-making, and we want solid, evidence-based techniques, which we listed up there, some easy ways to get to it. And sharing resources. And nobody has the magic pot of money, but when we work together and say, okay, here's 6 municipalities, 4 conservation groups, county parks and rec, and we all want to do this, the chances of getting the money go up. So that's what we want to, use that multiplier, help us get the outcomes we're looking for. So what would your role? So this is the vision statement that honestly a handful of people came up with. But the idea is if we can get you on board, and we've got 5 other municipalities identified, you're the first that we're in front of today. We're going to be doing this right down the creek and seeing how many will come on board and help us build a framework. You know, through steering committee meetings, we're gonna build a steering committee and find out what makes sense. We want to get to know the functions of the municipalities so we can better understand your process, because we can't offer help if we don't know what you're doing. So that would be our first thing. We would ask for you to identify somebody to be serving by us, to give us the nuts and bolts as it relates to water quality, stormwater, parks and rec. Then we would ask for a representative for our steering committee, and we are suggesting it's a pilot program, give us a year, 6 meetings, and for us to get this group of people together to see what's possible, whether we think this could be an effective strategy for the Neshaminy watershed. There's not an organization like this in the county. Our neighbors are there, Chester and Montgomery, and you see these consortiums and alliances all over, and it's noticeably absent in the county. I would like to see something get started, because if there's, you know, it could be a big assist for municipalities and for us to get our conservation goals, you know, moving on the track. So, that's the ask. So to identify the right people who can educate us about your needs, what your challenges are, and where, you know, our goals can align to get some good work done in the watershed. Did I forget something?
No, I think that's it. You know, certainly we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. And what we're proposing here.
Yeah, and any questions that, you know, about the conservation district, you know, our phone number, or somebody does, we can find out.
I think you're aware, at least Mr. Jones is aware, that we have recently instituted an EAC. They haven't met yet, but they will be meeting this month. And our chairperson of that committee is a master watershed individual. Is present today, as are, I think, 4 members of the EAC. So I was going to give them some time to organize and whatever, but I am very interested in having them doing public education for things that we can do in our little suburban yards that make a big difference. And yes, the township has a lot of stormwater problems. We've incur a lot of cost repairing damage caused by these flooding incidents. And it's only getting worse as time goes by. So we have partnered with Mr. Jones, and he's donated tons of time, tons of plants, tons of trees throughout the township, and working on using those resources to control stormwater, control the flooding, which seems to overtake most of our parks all the time. And hopefully will provide a less expensive solution than the usual, engineered solutions that are extremely costly. So I support this. I thank you for doing it. And I'm certain that you will get support here from our EAC, if anyone is interested in being appointed, along with other people that weren't appointed to the EAC who may be interested, who will be just general members. That's me.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. I think it's a worthwhile effort. So,
Right, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
I have one. Sorry, what have you seen from the other consortiums in the other counties? Are they as covering as big as land mass as what you would be looking at?
I'm thinking, well, my thing is it's a small watershed, but I'm thinking like in Chester County, they have Brandywine, and like. That's probably, I don't know square miles, but I'm thinking. I mean, you have smaller ones, and the Delaware County is basically a stormwater collaborative. Or urban municipalities were working together to get sewer projects done. They're effective, but it always depends on who's at the table. It's like any group of humans, they can work or it can't, depending on the personalities there, so we're really hoping to build functioning group. And that's why we want to, we haven't adopted a model that we've talked to 3 or 4 other collaboratives just to see how they're working. It's not like, we're like, well, this is the one we want to use. We want to build it from scratch with what works with our community. Because each municipality has a different character, different flavor, different problems. So, I can't say what it will look like, just that we want it to, reflect the geography and the community that it's representing.
Yeah, the key concept here is that New Britain Township and these other 4 or 5 would be kind of the ones who shape this sort of pilot. And if we can pull it off with 4 or 5, then we can scale it over time to ultimately 27 and beyond. Maybe ultimately beyond the Neshaminy. I think that's Karen's goal, obviously, is to cover the whole county.
Make a model that we can get one for upper bucks, somehow organize it a little bit more than this today.
So when it says that you'd like to do the appointment by April 15th, what is you said, give us a year. What's the year?
The year would be, if all 6 municipalities say we're on board and we have people, we would hope to start by the end of April. And then within the following year, from April to April, have 6 stakeholder meetings and hopefully a lot of email communications in between to come up with a framework. Like, how would this work? Who's talking to who? We know that I raised my hand to be the hub of communication and scheduling and getting people together and that type of administrative support. But what's next? What are the different spokes? If I'm the hub, who's doing what elsewhere? That's what the year would be.
And what do the municipalities need?
Yeah.
What are the appropriate, let's be strategic about the type of projects that we execute. How do we fund them? Public education and outreach is a large part of it. How can we look more strategically across the whole leadership?
And that I always preach, a lot of it is MS4. MS4 is where it most logically intersects with education and outreach and on the ground projects. So how can we make that process better?
We have a few projects.
Yeah. And you all do.
Frank, do you have any comments or observations you'd like to share?
No, Mary Beth, just, you have a lot of projects and you've helped complete the one. And it's funding. I mean,
Yes.
I've been chasing grants with John. He has a lot of experience in that and my staff does as well, but there's a lot of strings attached to a lot of grants. The bigger townships have more funding and, you've helped out with some smaller projects and you work with Janine from my office and
Yeah.
she loves working with you guys, but it's hard to, incorporate that into larger projects that meet the MS4 requirements. So they are behind, but they're not the only, most municipalities are behind. And I think honestly, it's more identifying issues that are common throughout the municipalities and how can you help with, okay, if we all work together and achieve and solve some problems in a more efficient manner, which saves some money. Like, so, hey, here's something that worked here, go use it here. Because really, it just comes down to money. I mean, we have plenty of projects I can do, but like I said, it gets very expensive. Just surveying alone, just doing all of that and getting everything. So it is hard. I mean, it's,
Plenty of money to go with it.
no, it comes down to that. I mean, it's just that. I mean, we have plenty of, I can't even get projects shovel ready. Where the larger townships, municipalities, I have projects that are ready to go. And we're just looking for a grant, whether it's traffic, stormwater, but stormwater is big. We just didn't get the one grant for Brittany Farms. It's too small of a project. It's only a couple $100,000.
Yes.
I think those are the ones in this municipality that you need to go after because my other clients are going after $2 million projects. They're not going after 200. And then they see who's giving out the money, the funding. That's a big project. So you need to focus, I think, more on smaller projects to help municipalities like around here. I live in Plumstead, it's the same thing, whether it's, New Britain, Chalfont. As you go further down, there's,
Yes.
the coffers are bigger a little bit. And the
Yeah.
problems are much bigger. And then there's a big grant for $1 million that 2 municipalities go after and achieve. So another angle we've been looking at, John and I've spoken about trying to incorporate, if it's a park project and a stormwater MS4 project, hit it multiple ways with multiple grants in a larger scale. again, there's a lot of planning involved with that. So there's a lot of engineering dollars that goes into that.
I think just the last point I'll make about grants is, and it's been our experience of late that partnerships are where it's at. It's where the granting entities are, they're looking for partnerships between nonprofits and public landowners.
And yeah, and it, you know, my pie in the sky is like to have this consortium be able to win a large grant, maybe not enough of the $1 million, $2 million projects, but a good, you know, set aside to be able to do mini projects throughout the region, where we could actually decide what projects get funded. Once you get the big, you know, a pot of money from a large grant. But that would take a while to get there, so you can actually have a little control of your destiny instead of just hoping with each one that someone saves you some money.
All right. Is there any questions from the audience?
Thank you for your.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So next on our presentation list, we have Chalfont New Britain Joint Sewer Authority, John Larson, the new executive director, and Preston Campbell, our member.
I'll apologize immediately for Preston. Unfortunately, he had to be out of town tonight for business, so he did intend to be here, but he said to send regrets and thank the board for his reappointment. We appreciate him being reappointed. He's been a long-time member of our board, so that's very useful to us. I'm John Larson. I took over December 1st. John Schmidt, after 45 years, has decided to retire. Well-deserved at that point, I suppose. So I started December 1st as the new executive director. Obviously, it's been a quick 2 months of trying to get up to speed. We have John until the end of February, so we've been working through the transition and quite effectively, but trying to get a lot done in a short period of time. So I wanted to come and introduce myself and I guess open the floor to any questions that the board may have for us as the authority, since we serve New Britain and Chalfont for their sewer needs.
Well, how have you found the transition so far? Is it something that is our authority unique in any way?
Every unit of authority is unique. I've worked in water and wastewater for the better part of 25 years in various capacities, both as, pardon me, owning private businesses. That we owned a septic company for a very long time, and we did contract operations. So I run plants and interact with authorities all over Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Delaware. So everybody's unique. I don't think there is any one model that fits everywhere. So yes, we're unique, but we have a fair bit to get done. We do have a consent order with DEP that we're working through right now. So we have a pretty large project that's a result of that consent order that we're currently working on trying to get it finalized and get out of bid. So we've got a lot to do, but the transition's been going very well. I have to say that John's been very, very helpful with the transition, which has made it much easier. It's amazing how many things there are that somebody just does and doesn't really realize that they do until somebody else says, why do we do this? Or how do we do this? Or where does this go? So it's been a very good transition. And it'll be a while before I fully settle in, but it's going very well.
I have a question. How is the authority doing financially? Any immediate problems that you can see?
I don't see any immediate financial problems. So the last authority I worked at before here was Morristown. So financially, I think we are spectacular comparatively. Maybe some rose-colored glasses, but no, I think financially we're actually in quite good shape. We do have this project right now. It's estimated to probably be about $10 million. But Bucks County Water and Sewer is a very large contributor of ours, so they carry a significant portion of that cost. Which helps us a lot and helps offload that burden of both Chalfont and the Britain residents, because they represent about 53% of our flow, so they also represent about 53% of our capital and our operating costs. So that does help. It is nice having a partner like that because it does help offset that all rolling downhill to the ratepayer just for these things.
Do we have capacity to continue to grow if we still have Bucks County Water and Sewer is 53% of our?
We do, yeah, we do. Right now, we're rated for about 4.6 MGD. We have available around 3/4 to 1 million gallons, depending on when you look. That's a little bit of a rolling average based on your wettest or your most recent 3 years. In this particular case, our most recent 3 years have been particularly wet years. So we base that off of what's called the Chapter 94 report that's provided to DEP. Right now, we're on the lower end of that, just because we've had some very wet years, but that tends to run on a bell curve. It opens and closes. But that represents, you figure an average house, for relative terms, an EDU for a house is a 250 gallon per day allotment. So having, say, 750,000 gallons of capacity represents quite a significant amount of growth before we would be limited out on the plant. And we actually have, our plant is quite a bit overbuilt from what we're permitted for. We have the ability in the future, if we needed to re-rate that plant. It doesn't benefit us to do that at this point because it carries more costs, it carries more oversight from DEP. So we choose not to do that until it becomes necessary, but we have the ability within our process to be able to re-rate. And that's one of the things we'll dig further into with this project is we'll prepare the plant to be re-rated. We'll prepare for a couple of things. One would be re-rating. Even though we wouldn't choose to re-rate it at this time because there's no benefit to do so, we would plan to be able to re-rate it with some minimal investment in the future. If we're doing this project, we may as well get the most benefit out of it as we can. The other thing we always look to is, where are we today? What problems do we need to fix? But also what can we kind of foresee that we're going to have as potential problems in the future, particularly as they relate to regulatory agencies and we have an NPDES permit, which dictates what we're allowed to discharge in the Neshaminy Creek. Nobody has a crystal ball. We never know exactly what that's going to do, but every 5 years that has to be renewed. We can usually get some kind of indication of what regulations might be on the horizon by looking at other treatment authorities' permits in the region that go to the same receiving matter. And also just looking at the trends that DEP is moving towards with regulations and limitations on pollutants. So we always try to keep an eye to that and plan for what potentially could be coming as we do these upgrades and as we do expansions to the plant, so that we're not caught at a point where all of a sudden we get a limitation on something that we weren't planning for. Now, it can happen. They do come out of the blue occasionally, but generally speaking, we try to stay ahead of that. So that's one of the things that we're looking at right now with this project is not only what do we need to fix today and where are we that we need to do some work, but where would we be in 5 to 10 years? And how do we try to plan for that as best we can so that we're ready for those changes as they come.
So speaking of planning.
Yes, I was gonna say, what about
Can-
updating our map? So if we have new developments coming in, or even a single home here or there, I know in my particular area, it's got a mixture of historic homes and newer builds, and there are some people that are on septic, I think. And then, there's a handful, and most of us are on public sewer. And so like things like that, how do we approach that if the neighbor up the road sells a piece of land and they put a home there or something like that?
So the most direct, see a development of a large piece of land where that'll get developed and a lot of times that becomes responsibility of the developer to now provide sewer. So they'll have to run sewer from the nearest connection point that we have up to serve that, or be faced with some other option, which might be a small package plant that can get dedicated, or there's multiple ways to get to that solution. We also have a 537 plan. I believe our current 530, Craig, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's about 10 years old.
In fact, that's where I didn't know how far you wanted to get into that, but I did update the board. We spoke a few weeks ago.
Yep.
You started undertaking that. I think it was 2006 when the board authorized your engineer and our office
Yep.
to work together on that. So I think there were some smaller updates, but
I think there's been a few minor updates in between.
and that was really to establish the public sewer and the on-lot area. And it was time to update that. And I know you and I spoke a few weeks ago. I did update board about maybe slowing down or postponing, delaying something.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you're ready to talk about that
Yeah,
tonight.
absolutely, yeah, so financially, we're about halfway through that. I don't from what I can see from what our engineers provided, I don't see about 50%. To be perfectly fair to them, I'm just getting into the tip of the iceberg. So what I've asked our engineer to do is to put a pause until I can get better understanding of the township, particularly as it relates to New Britain. Chalfont doesn't have as much potential development or development that is impacted by the 537. Even though there's a lot of redevelopment, most of that are areas we already serve by sewer. So that's not a huge impact as it relates to a 537 plan. It's really more impacts New Britain Township, but until I can better manage my engineer, I don't want them just running down the rabbit hole and burning money for no good use and giving us something that's not very useful to you guys and us in the end. So I've asked them to put that on hold until I can get better sense of the township, what areas we should be trying to look at, how I should be directing them and managing them. I just don't feel like I've got a handle on that yet, so.
So what I suggest, and I didn't know how long John Schmidt was gonna be. Was maybe we do, you and I talked about getting together.
Reviewing the map, yeah.
I think that's where on discussions with the board and then you as well, I think we're just focused right now on just advising the public sewer map area. If there's areas already public sewer extensions, let's update that. If there's areas that John, when they got authorization to go forward with it, say, hey, there's some areas we can't get public sewer there. Let's get the map more accurate, cleaned up. I think that's really the goal of this board right now. I think we weren't aware of how much, because last time you used that, I think, to re-rate the plan. There's other things you wanted that for. I don't think that's the case now, it sounds like. So maybe we can scale back, so you don't, I think you talked about, you don't need to spend another 40,000, but you have all our data, you have all the information. We're kind of done on our end. My staff has completed that, and maybe just focus on a map update that you could complete that.
And you and I have talked about getting together and reviewing that map, so
Yeah.
we can identify what.
Maybe you could do that with your engineer, and I'd like to have John there, because
Yeah,
and then we could do it before in that way, he kind of brain dumps on the rest for you and I and I'll help you walk through a little bit of the township as well. So that's where I think the next step would be while they're taking the pause to have and if someone else wants to attend, I know Greg Hood was the liaison and attended meetings with me, so whoever that liaison is, I appreciate that, or if John wants to attend. But I think we should get together and.
And we'll play it, John.
Is Bill?
Bill is the,
Okay. You're supposed to do that?
I just have one other question. There was a construction project up near our Veterans Park pumping station, and the last I heard, there had been a stop on that
For.
on a New Galena.
Yeah, we haven't been involved, I don't.
No, we just commissioned that pump station.
Yeah, that's-
Matter of fact, they just, today, they just finally cut off the flow, because we had 12 pump stations available. They just cut off the flow that replaces an old pump station 4, which sits up behind the development just up. And I apologize, I don't have the roads down yet.
We do, we'll tell you, so.
Yeah, so today they just actually, they did the channel work in the manhole, so that old pump station is now completely isolated. They've cut power to it as of last week. So then that new pump station is completely commissioned and it has been for probably since middle of about December. It's been online. Knocked on wood, it's very well with the rain we've had. We've had some significant rain events, so it's done a much better job than the old pump station 4 was able to do. Obviously, we went quite a bit larger. We built that pump station with plans for future capacity. We made it significantly larger than the one it replaced. With an eye to potentially actually eliminate one of our other pump stations by being able to feed by gravity to that one. If we can get right of ways and easements in place, that'll be a long-term project, but we have it out there as a goal to try to get to that as a solution. So we size that pump station accordingly to be able to do that, and also to be able to handle that flow for any development.
All right, thank you for the update. We hadn't heard really anything
Pleasure.
for a while.
I'm happy to come anytime that you guys would like an update, see to set it up as something that's a standing appointment, or if you guys need it, feel free to reach out. Don can reach out to me or Greg. But we're happy to come anytime you'd like to actually provide that.
I think that would be nice to have a standing appointment with you.
Yeah.
Every quarter or every 6
Absolutely.
months.
We're happy to do that.
Perfect. Any other questions from the board? No? Any questions from the public that they'd like to know about their sewer system?
The only thing the public wants to know is no rate increases, right?
We have not talked about a rate increase yet this year. I don't know if there will be or not, so I'm not positive. Again, that's another item that I just haven't had time to dig into yet. I've had, got 2 board meetings under my belt, and I've got another one coming up next week, so. We might have a conversation at that point.
It's one of those things you just want to know that it works.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it's very important. You don't realize how important it is until it stops functioning.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Larson. Thank you for coming and welcome to the area.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our presentation list, we have 545 West Butler Avenue, Chalfont, Dunkin' Donuts proposed land development. Good evening.
You know, I'm just gonna give Scott a minute to just set up. Everybody always seen on the plan, or if you have a copy here, if not, wait, they got some extra ones. Do you need some extras?
We don't have one in front of us, so yes, if you have an extra, that would be great.
And Dave emailed it to us this week.
Yeah.
Last
we've
week.
seen-
Last week.
Monday.
Hey, I'm happy you walking and talking to last week's. I didn't pay attention to days.
There's 2 sets of these, one. But, good evening, everyone. My name is David Shaplitz. I'm here on behalf of the owner of that certain parcel of property that used to be a wild on the corner of County Line and Butler. We understand that this particular piece of property is not only the Seaboard zoning district, but also in the Butler Avenue way overlay. My client was part of this scheme. And knowing that they're in the business of Dunkin' Donuts, and as a matter of fact, they're the ones who operate Dunkin' Donuts patty corner in Tony Township. At the gas stations, if it's that wanting to be taken out, hopefully you would hear. Anyway, we had approached, luckily Mr. Narr was around at the time, the township staff over. Hey, look, this is what we're thinking. Originally, had to consider a multi-use building on that site, which had Dunkin' and Papa John's. We knew that, and I used to live in the area, what a disaster it was as a Wawa, the ingress, the egress, the traffic circulation, and I've seen some crazy things happen at that corner. So we wanted to be very conscientious and careful about how we design this. Scott, through his team, and our traffic engineer, Alberto Rico, we had 3 application meetings with PennDOT and talked about this particular location. Went through some staff meetings. I think we even had a visit to the planning commission. Ultimately, what came back to us was a plan that needed some zoning relief, which is why we're here for you guys, just talk to you guys about. Originally, we had the multi-use proposal. We have sort of recently kind of scaled back from that and proposing a Dunkin' only. No Papa John's. And then we were also able to figure out, based on the size of this particular structure, what our availability of public space would be, and we're able to also eliminate our parking variance. So what we had left with is a couple of existing non-conformities. Scott talked through a little more detail, but luckily the zoning relief kind of down to a minimum. But I know you guys haven't had a chance to see this at all realistically. And one of the things I was very proud of my client, which I know sounds a little strange, was how they took these traffic circulation stuff very seriously. And if you follow this particular plan, one of the things that was very important is there's no access to the site from Butler. It's only an egress. So the only way you can now access the site based on the circulation that works best. So we could prevent any stacking into Butler Ave was to have the access on County Line, circulate through the site. And they can only exit Butler, and they can only go one way. They can't exit Butler and go left or right. It's only one way. The access point on County Line, I think, is still supposed to be multi exit, ingress and egress, but I think that'll ultimately be, that's decision how that will play out.
One of the other things that I know is important is this particular plan is just a zoning plan. So the overlay, the architectural requirements, the landscaping, the lighting, we know all that's gonna be part of our land development processes. That progresses and, you know, this client has always shown a willingness to do what's necessary and then go above and beyond, understanding that this is a gateway. And one of the things that we talked about early on was maybe the board will ultimately give us some feedback on is a gateway sign at this corner that's being proposed for the site. It's always been proposed for the site, so we're open to ideas on that down the road. It's just the client understands that, you know, there's definitely very specific requirements. We do intend to meet them. But for purposes of our zoning hearing, which is next week, I think, February 15th, we just wanted to get you guys familiar with the plan, obviously be available to answer any questions about it. I do have a couple of representatives of my client, the operational style questions. Mr. Miller, planner, can give you guys a brief overview if you want, existing features, what's proposed. But I think what you'll see is that the proposed Wawa building or the existing Wawa building coming down, there'll be a new sunken structure, meaning there both recent architectural requirements as well as townships are. So it'll be a nice building. It will be modern, it'll be new. Their interior, if you haven't been into Duncan recently, their whole setup inside is different. And as you know, in the world that we live in today, everybody relies heavily on their. So fortunately, I still fight with my kids every time. They want to go through the drive-thru. I'm like, no, we're gonna go inside. But yes, it's the cost of modern living. So unless the board has questions, I can ask Scott to do a quick overview of existing and proposed and give you
You
a
guys,
sense of what the plan is.
I don't really have any questions.
I think I was gonna jump in. I think they're okay with, they've been updated by my office and the manager on all the steps. And I thought maybe I would just mention that just for the public, I think the board is aware that we've worked on this for quite a while, at staff level, with PennDOT. You've been, you know, gracious enough to go and get input from PennDOT early on. I think one of the first staff meetings, we were not happy with the circulation. We were not happy with the access. I think they heard us loud and clear. And I will compliment them on every time staff has had a comment, whether it's the zoning officer, my office, the solicitor. And then with PennDOT feedback, they've made changes along the way. So I requested that they come in front of you because I thought the plan went from several, significant variances down to, I think we're down to one.
Yeah.
Which is the paved area setback, which is pretty common variance with Wawas and Dunkin' Donuts, things like that. So I don't anticipate a problem. So, and they can't avoid that with the layout. But the biggest thing is the circulation and the access has addressed all the feedback I got from you and the staff. I relayed that to Dave and the professionals and Scott. So I don't have any comments on this plan. They've addressed all of them. Like I said, they will be addressing all of the beautification, landscaping, pedestrian access, the welcome to New Britain Township signage you want. They mentioned that tonight. So we'll get into that in the land development stages. Their zoning plan only. But I know you've heard it and saw different versions of it. So I thought it was important for them to come in front of you tonight, kind of get your blessing on it before they go to zoning hearing board. I know the plan you saw before, you actually opposed it. So because of that decision, I thought it was necessary at least to show progress of where they've come. So that's my little speech.
Any questions from the board?
One question, I think this came up in a meeting and I don't think that we got the answer. Will there be, they're called bollards, fronts where the parking is between that and the building, or is there room for that, or is that in your plan?
We're currently showing it as a curved paved area up to sidewalk, so that you won't have that kind of flattened, non-transition
Right,
area.
that non-transition.
You'll have
Yeah,
that
so if someone
curved
puts it in, that happens. I'm not trying to jinx their project, I'm just trying to prevent that.
But that is where the one variance will be coming into it, saying that we would say paved area of 20 feet between the building and where the paved area is, but that's going to be much less. That's where the one variance is coming in.
Yeah, so with a drive-through, pretty much part and parcel with that, you kind of have to have it, especially at the drive-through window. The paving kind of come right up to the gate, so you can drive to it. Currently today, I did a measurement of it, it's about 3.5 feet currently existing. So as David mentioned a little bit ago, existing nonconformities. We're going from, instead of a requirement of 20 feet, existing's 3.5. Based on our proposed layout, we're at about a half. Just to have that curve line, just a little bit of separation. But
For the drive-through window.
but for the drive-through window.
I think one of our major concerns has been resolved, and that was the dual use. We still have concerns about traffic and egress and ingress, especially at that intersection. But there's really nothing you can do about people not following the signs, and we may be making some money on that if our police are paying attention.
One of the things we were looking at is our most accident prone areas. This was number one, because of Wawa. You can change the traffic pattern, you put these turns in there, it doesn't mean people are going to not try to go over them or around them and everything. So that's my perspective on it, is that regardless of what you put there, it's gonna be a traffic nightmare, accidents. Are going to increase. And just Dunkin' Donuts is a very popular place. And you mentioned drive-throughs, I foresee that as a drive-through and stuff like that will back up into causing other issues.
I was actually gonna ask Scott, can you show the circulation? Because that was one thing we worked on, because that happens quite a bit in other facilities.
So orientation wise, you have County Line Road, and you see two windows here. The top one is the existing conditions, the bottom one is what's being proposed. Along the left side of the plan is County Line Road, and at the bottom is Butler Avenue. So the idea, and David mentioned, there's no proposed access to this site via, especially today, there's no restrictions. It's a wide driveway that allows ingress and egress, but that will be limited to egress only coming onto Butler Avenue. The only ingress will be kind of at the northerly end, where the access currently exists today, in from County Line Road, where it'll be then, once you get into the site, it'll be one-way circulation all the way around. So as you come in, you'll make the right, kind of like you do today with the Wawa, or did when it operated. Then you can wrap around, and then they've got two drive-through lanes that allow for separate stacking of drive-through patrons. And then we also have a bypass lane. So if the drive-through seems to be stacked too much, you'll still have kind of like that outlet valve. You can wrap around again and maybe park and go into the store that way. Again, it's wrap around one way only. And then as you exit, you can either come out to that same point of ingress and exit that way, which will be right turn only on the County Line Road. The other alternative is if you do go through drive-through and want to exit onto Butler Avenue, you wrap around the building and you come and you make this right turn here. And we have it angled and sweeping enough. There's no guarantee, but you try to do the best you can and work with PennDOT and township staff and make it so that it is very discouraging of somebody trying to come out here and make a left turn. So that's the point of the angle and the sweeping nature of that into Butler Avenue.
6-inch curb.
Sorry.
6-inch curb.
Yeah.
do it.
So, so that was something we worked on with them. That way, the only way to back out on the site, which I hear all the time about the one down in, I guess, Shelfbahn, impacts Butler, and believe me, almost all of them around here. I had my staff look at 5 surrounding Dunkin' Donuts. I think this is the most stacking of any new Dunkin' Donuts in the area without impacting the public street. Because of how the design is of you cannot access the site from Butler Avenue. So that eliminates sneaking in there and getting in the lane right away. So that access will be changed, chief. And the other thing is the sweeping turnout to try to prevent people. So one thing with that I've noticed is maybe we can look at even narrowing that down a little bit. If it feels like they can, run that. So the Plumstead Wawa has that where I live up there. People do not try to go out. It's too narrow. So maybe go down to 12 or 15, but something a little bit narrower that people don't feel like they can sneak by someone coming in, because chief, they are gonna do it. I don't think, to be honest with you, that's not your enforcement issue until it's an accident, but every fast food restaurant has that, with a drive-through has that issue about going out the end. So it's, or actually
And people
going in
drive
the
like nutcakes today.
But the design now maximizes based on PennDOT feedback, our feedback, the most stacking you get internal till it actually hit county line. I think that's over 24 cars.
It would be a lot.
Yeah, you're talking well over 20 some cars, if not more.
Can I ask, since Butler Avenue is a state road, and I know I have seen this on Old York Road, and in the middle of the road are those nice things that can flip and flop, that can stop people from crossing the road, because I know that happens a lot with the gas station on one side and whatever we put on the other side. Is that something we can petition PennDOT for looking at, since we know that this is a high accident area? And was rejected?
I don't recall who rejected it, but the township didn't like the site.
The look.
Trying to think of a better word.
Looks like sites where the flip flops have been run over so many times.
It was just a nightmare. It wasn't maintained. I think it's put on you. And that's not gonna maintain them. You're gonna have to go fix them. It's a state highway. And the way it's laid out now, I don't think they'd have to reconfigure all that, but I mean, it's not off the table. I don't know if PennDOT would approve that, this situation or not.
Permitting,
Yeah.
see what they say.
We're not at that stage yet right now, but if that's a concern, it was how it looked.
Well, we can only do so much. Something's gonna go in there, and no matter what goes in there, it's gonna be a traffic issue. It was a traffic issue with Wawa. And it really comes down to people doing what the heck they want.
And I think like the chief said, maybe Mr. Jones has said, there are other mechanisms we can look at through the land development process to. If somebody's gonna make that move, then they're gonna destroy their car. I mean, it's just not gonna.
That works.
Yeah, and I've seen it, but they go. So,
It'll be a different kind of call.
yeah.
Chief.
Yeah.
When you look at the bottom of the car.
Yep. Question from the back? Please stand up, say your name and address, please.
I live near there. I have two questions. So if they're on County Line Road, that goes north and south, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if they're coming down from Hatfield, they're coming south. There's that long lane where you can turn left on the Butler. And it's a very dicey area. Are they allowed to pull into Dunkin' Donuts, or they have to be coming north to go into Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah.
Where's the turning lane, to be able to.
Yes.
And too dangerous there. And my other question was, how does this fit in with the townhomes that are near Wawa? Will they have a light or something coming out onto that county line? How do they fit together?
No, they're separate projects.
There's separate projects, PennDOT, that's all PennDOT control, but there's gonna be I'm told there's no light proposed. PennDOT is not requiring that. It's existing driveway. Wawa, I'm assuming Wawa's traffic is higher than the development there, but no light is proposed.
Is proposed is that there will be a access road from that development into the Wawa so that they can use the light at the Wawa
On Butler.
on Butler
Yeah.
for the townhomes. Well, they can.
They can.
They, They can if they
Yeah.
want. They'd be dumb to do that when they can use the light.
All the time, a lifelong turning left lane to if someone stops. Going Dunkin' Donuts, that's gonna be a nightmare.
The whole area traffic wise is a nightmare. Unfortunately, they're both state roads and PennDOT controls what is or isn't required. I think that we have made our concerns, most of them have been addressed. The traffic is nothing we can control. And it's only a nightmare because people drive like nutcakes.
No.
PennDOT has the final say on all that. We can't dictate that. They go through warrant analysis for the signal, and it's all controlled by PennDOT. We could ask and demand a light or further restrictions, but they follow. I mean, it's the state highway. They have their engineers, it's a whole very complicated process that no developer likes to go through, unfortunately, but they have the final say on all that. I don't disagree with what you're saying as far as I wouldn't want to do it, and I have a couple intersections that I tell my kids not to use, and I want them to go the other way. And that's how I handle it. But if PennDOT's gonna allow it, that we've gone through this with the Toll Brother development and allowing full access out of there. Wawa wants it, they want it, PennDOT's not gonna restrict it, so. We don't have the authority to restrict it.
Any other questions from the public? Any other questions?
Yeah.
Oh,
Steve.
Kathleen Davis, 32 Clearview. I can't tell what the landscaping is here. I imagine there might be some down by the street. There is some landscaping.
Not that stage yet. It's just zoning.
So my question actually, I'll say, actually makes to the zone. And stormwater. So if there's a variance being given, sometimes you can do trade-offs. And I'm wondering if there's a possibility for some curb cuts into some vegetation that would be a nice way to alleviate some of the stormwater issues that are around that downhill and county line and, yeah.
So that area, Kathleen, is controlled by our overlay district. If you recall what's going on, what Wawa did. So there's fencing and there's vegetation. And there will be stormwater.
Yeah, we're
Management.
not there yet, and that's the danger of bringing a zoning plan. I know everybody wants to get into other stuff. Plus, the EAC will have plenty of time to review this, and I'd like those comments in writing. That's where I like that process of any feedback. They'll have it in writing exactly what the EAC wants from stormwater. I have to balance those requirements with stormwater, with the overlay, and that's where Scott's team, my team, try to navigate that path. But I will warn everybody, the site is almost all impervious. They're
Reducing it, yeah.
okay, I wasn't sure. They're actually reducing it. And most people know me, I push for, it's great that they're reducing it, but I want more too. Kathleen, you'll get to know me there. I'm not easy on them. There are trade-offs, but not at this point, not zoning. We'll do that through the subdivision land development ordinance. So as you come up with your list and planning commission, I'll work with Scott, Dave and team on, all right, I know you're doing this, but we want more. What can you do for us? And that's where that'll take place in land development. As long as Dave keeps on his head, then we'll be good. But yes, I just want all that in writing. I'd rather have all that feedback through the EAC, through planning commission in writing, and then it's documented what we would like, so.
Is it possible to put up a sign that says, going the wrong way will cause tire damage without actually putting up the gravel?
I think this extension is terrible, dude.
These are the-
Evil here.
This is the challenges of bringing a zoning plan.
Get into that later.
We'll get there. Let's get through zoning. I think you need to weigh in on the application.
Yeah, so that question for Dave, do you know when you're back on the zoning hearing board agenda? You are, So, yeah, I mean, at this time, I mean, there was a previous vote by the board to oppose this application. Within when that happens, I like to do things that Craig does. It's go to the interactive process and you get it down to what the real issues are. And I think we have here. I think you have a plan now where you're gonna see it in land development that with one variance and one that's pretty regularly granted in our talks with what it is. I mean, I don't see a need for our office to be in opposition to this anymore if you are so inclined.
Board?
I would agree with that. There's no need.
Agree.
Agree.
Yes.
There you go.
There you go.
And then you have to deal with Craig. Thank you.
Thank you. Make us a beautiful sign on the front. That will be lovely to see that turn into a great gateway to the township. Yes.
We'll go back and say. All that.
Worked up. He knows. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Thank you. Okay, our final presentation for the night is presentation D, proposed amendment number 2 to zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance pertaining to parking and traffic. It's yours.
that me?
Yes. You.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have your second amendment, as I promised. We were working through the zoning in Saldo with the township staff. This was mainly heavy lifting by Janine, and our traffic department. And we looked at parking and some of your traffic design criteria. I don't expect anybody to comment right now. If you see something, that's fine. Like I said before, we'll put all the changes in the ordinances together under one ordinance. Scott will prepare that, and then we'll walk through the planning commission, advertisement for public comment, and then board consideration. I don't expect you, and I'm going to beg you, don't go through the parking requirements unless you have a really specific idea on parking for hotels, nursery, college campuses and whatnot. But we followed the Institute of Transportation Engineers standard manual. And so what we did is just go through your parking requirements and updated those to meet that. So if you do see something that jumps out, that's fine. Bring that up. Again, email me or let John know, and we'll look at those with Dave Conroy, the zoning officer. The other part was very technical, was your design standards for off-street parking. We updated those, and to be honest with you, most of it we moved and put into Saldo. Along with the biggest thing on page 1, which I skipped, was your traffic impact study analysis. We're moving that into subdivision land development ordinance and not in zoning. So my hands were for years, it's been like this, and other municipalities were starting to change it where if it's in zoning and I agree with what they're doing and PennDOT agrees with what they're doing and everybody agrees it's in zoning. And so it's very difficult to navigate that process because of the zoning. They have to go to zoning hearing board. So we're moving that into subdivision land development ordinance. Really not many changes. So all the requirements are still there. It's just a different path. They'll come to you for a waiver instead of going to zoning hearing board for a variance. Bill's looking at me, a question?
No.
Okay.
No.
So,
It's the money for the applicant if it's working.
yeah. I looked at the parking design criteria. Dunkin' Donuts left, but one of the things I'm working on is changing the variance that they're requesting. I don't think they wanted to wait till summer or the end of the year, but redefining instead of just paved areas next to a building for drive-throughs. I mean, that's you have to
Right.
have pavement up to the fast food restaurant or drive-through. So we'll look at more parking spaces, not paved areas. So we tweak something like that and move that into Saldo as well. I don't see any need. They should be going to zoning hearing board for that design standard. So I think Scott agrees with that. On a lot of those design criteria haven't come in front of us, and the board can weigh on that instead of having it go through the zoning hearing board. So that's my summary. The next update will be, we're going to work with Dave on changes to the uses, not as much changing the use, but where it's applicable, what zoning district. And I think you'll be interested in that. So why do we have this use in this district, or why isn't there this use in that district? So that may take a few months. Dave's still inundated and he's still getting to know the township too, the ins and outs of every zoning district. So we'll work with them a little bit on that. That'd be very miscellaneous cleanup items that we didn't catch in parking or all your natural resources. So I figured maybe in a couple months I don't know if Dave will come or not. We'll decide if I'm gonna do it or not, but, all right.
Okay.
With those uses, I know that there's been discussion about having more broader uses rather than saying, I want building X.
Yeah.
I want a dry cleaner.
Yeah.
Or a salon or something. Turn it more into a broader category. Is that something you're looking at, or is that not part of that?
No, but that's something that if those type of comments, email John and Dave, myself to say, I know you're gonna be starting, that's really if there's areas you already know that you have some concerns about, just email, include Scott, and we'll all discuss how we can address that issue, but that hasn't been discussed. More general use then, like,
I think sometimes when we've had some of the things that have come in front of us, it has been, we've had our hands tied where it's sort of given us, you can only have A, B, C, and D, rather than saying, well, that with the new e-commerce and stuff like
Okay.
that has changed how commercial and uses are looked at. So I'm sorry, I can't
no, that's fine.
pull a recent example up. at the
But if you
moment.
have one, just let us know, and
Yeah.
we can look at that. We're gonna, on the use part, that was gonna be more Dave and I think the board. I was gonna, add my feedback in, but it's really, if you see a use, like, should we really still allow or permit that? Or do we need to modify it based on how they operate now? Like Dunkin' Donuts has no seats. So our parking criteria really went down. So we're looking at that. We have to have enough for parking for people to still stop in, for the employees. So that was one thing on that application. They're over parked. They only require 8 or 9 spaces. They're at 18. So there's a good example, more impervious.
Well, we'd be happy to
Versus
cut
more-
those down if
Yeah.
they want to talk about that.
But they want that. Like, that just shows you that whenever someone over parks, based on the ordinance, I feel like then the ordinance isn't keeping up with standards. So it's based on seats, not public eating, and the public eating area is very small. So as these businesses have changed, we have to stay up with the regulations as far as what's allowed and what isn't. So,
Think about in situations like especially food establishments, people are coming in and picking up their Uber Eats or Instacart orders or whatever. So there could be a need for parking, even though it might not seem like, they're not coming in to sit, but
so
But yeah, our ordinances require based on square footage, and from what I've seen previously, we are way over. Over parked, as you put it. Miles and miles of unused asphalt, doesn't do anybody, costs the developer more to pave it, to maintain it, to plow it. It could be employed for stormwater rain gardens or something like that. Yeah, maybe
Just not
reduce
parking.
it. Just not parking. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, we have one comment from the,
I didn't see this amendment in the meeting packet.
We're not acting on it. It hasn't,
it was just,
yep,
which are you talking about? The tree and shrub or the
by the
parking?
Yes.
I'm
They'll
not
be made available to the EAC through channels through the management. Yeah, so.
Okay.
They will be made available for people to look at them before there's any action on them.
It's just a presentation. I don't sure I've seen it yet either, so. Okay.
Any other questions from the public? Okay, moving on to next agenda item of action items. Do I have a motion to consider the scheduled prepaid bills in the amount of $245,974.11 dated January 2nd, 2024? Bill, do I have a second?
second,
Bridget, all those in favor, please say aye.
I would just,
Oh, sorry, any comments from the board?
I'm looking at, is this the one 245?
Yeah.
We have one item on here
it's already
Um,
taken.
that,
It was.
okay,
The amount.
all right,
of
it was
wood.
taken out, okay.
Mhm.
Sorry, any questions from the public? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Motion to consider the schedule of prepaid bills in the amount of $93,882.18 dated January 25th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mary Beth, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Bridget? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Moment there, I didn't think we were paying bills.
I don't like to always be the one saying.
Yeah. Any public comment? Sorry. Oh. No? Passes 5-0. Next motion is to consider the scheduled prepaid bills in the amount of $268,268.42 dated February 1st, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mary Beth, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Bill? Any questions or concerns from the board? No? Any from the public? No? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Motion D, to consider the schedule of regular bills in the amount of $80,332.23 dated February 1st, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mary Beth, do I have a second? Second. Stephanie? Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Motion E, to approve the purchase of 2 replacement vehicles for the Code Enforcement Department from Chapman Auto in the amount of $59,602. The budget approved $75,000 for one. Second code vehicle is in need of replacement. So the administration recommends that we purchase 2 for the price of 1. Do I have a motion? Bridget? Do I have a second?
Second.
Stephanie? Do we have any more color from John? Nope.
I have some questions. I looked at this, and I guess my first question and hope, although I know it's about to be dashed, is to see whether these could be purchased as hybrid vehicles.
As said in the last meeting, the availability of a hybrid vehicle is limited to communities that are much greater.
But I had to ask.
Good try.
5 years from now, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, you can probably, take over the borough, jump on into Britain and you might be.
Yeah. Actually, I did have a thought about that. Since police cars were or are going to be regularly replaced, could the police departments in the area pull together and make a consortium and put an order in for police vehicles?
You don't get along that well.
That's a great.
That's okay, because I was
didn't
thinking,
realize we could do that.
you replace them very, very regularly. So I thought if there was some way of being able to order more than 1 a year.
Purchasing power and, but no, you guys don't get along that well, huh?
Big boys don't want to play with little.
You don't
kids.
necessarily want to be beholden to any other police department. You
Yeah.
don't have to be.
Yeah. Any other questions from the public? No? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Motion to approve the boards and commissions volunteer handbook. Do I have a motion? Bill, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mary Beth, do I have any questions or concerns from the board? No? Do I have any questions or concerns from the public? Please stand.
It's so helpful, so really helpful. Reading through the draft, there was, a lot of things that are just gonna help the processes that I didn't do before. Just a few little friendly, editorial comments. It says chairman. Well, it could just be the chair and vice chair, that would be. Very.
Since you're not a chairman.
I'm
so
not.
you're- okay.
Yeah, and I don't think any people would like it to try.
Yeah. It's just, I think, yeah, but we can change that.
Yeah, everyone's okay with those edits?
Yes, there's just a few spots where the English professor is coming out. That belongs to instead of board, or just a few S's here.
Well, if we manage to move along and not notice that, and you've got attorneys and doing things.
Yeah.
But thank you for your
They
comment.
used to work with attorneys.
So,
I
yes,
agree.
we will change chairman to chair.
Vice chair.
Yeah. Everyone is okay with that? Do I need to make another motion? No. All those in favor of approving the volunteer handbook, please say aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. Motion to approve resolution 2024-04 to remove Mike Walsh, John Bates and Matt West as authorized signatures and appointing Kristen Carpenter, William B. Jones III and Cynthia M. Jones as authorized signatures for the 2 township pension plans. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mary Beth, do I have a second?
Second?
Bridget, any questions or concerns from the board? Any color from John? No. Any questions or concerns from the public? No. Do I have a motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. 5-0. Motion H to authorize advertisement for bids for the Brittany Farm stream restoration. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mary Beth, do I have a second? Bill? Any color from Craig, please?
I believe John and I spoke, and I believe got some direction from the board as well, and I agree. We're gonna go out to bid on this project. And based on discussion between John and Ryan, it's a little too much for Public Works. We'll see what the bids are. We'll try to, you're gonna get a wide range depending on who bids on this, so. We didn't even want to do an estimate. You budgeted 225. You did get the grant that was a little less than that. But I think it's good to go out, see what the bids come back, and then we can reevaluate the project at that point, because some really competitive bids, we'll award it. We'll take care of all the administrative parts. So this is really not only advertising, but authorizing us to prepare the bid documents. And then our staff will go through and take care of that for you. And then I'll update you when the bids are opened, and we'll decide what to do at that point.
Okay, will you be sectioning things out that may be able to be done by volunteer work or anything?
Yeah, in fact, I think Janine was already thinking of that through, so I think I may have to we'll break it down as much as we can. That way we can, maybe have alternates. That way we can just award a base bid and do alternates, or the alternate can be done by Public Works a couple of years from now or whatever, so yes.
Okay,
So,
all right. Any other questions from the public? Do I have all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Motion to approve payment number 2 in the amount of $23,458.50 to AH Cornell for the Neshaminy Greenway Trail. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Mary Beth, second by Bill. Any questions from the board? Any color from any of our staff?
Just second payment, I did get an update from the contractor. They're going to try to pave, the weather's really slowing them down. Remember, Public Works is gonna be doing a lot of the work. They'll be delivering the amenities that Public Works will be installing, I guess this month. Then they'll look to do final paving end of March, beginning of April, weather permitting, and they're deciding if they want to get in, do everything, and then get out, and then Public Works finish, or so work Janine and Ryan and the contractor coordinating that. So they are finishing up the pillars. I think you asked me before what the excavation was. I got pictures the next day. I sent those out, or at least I sent them to Cynthia. So they're finishing that up, and then they'll do the paving again, weather permitting, end of March. And then Public Works, I don't think they have a schedule yet when they're gonna get in there and do their work.
Yeah, the pillars do look very good. So nice entrance to the car park and the. Any other questions from the public? No, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion J to cancel the February 26, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting.
I make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Stephanie? Any board comments? John, any comment? No, we have two meetings back to back, February 26th and first one in March, so feels appropriate to cancel one. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Board comments. Started down there last time. Bridget. huh?
Okay, I just wanted to say, although they're not here, I'm really excited to see what we can accomplish with the Neshaminy Consortium. I'm hoping that that moves forward with all of our neighboring townships and municipalities and their work with hopefully EAC, and I'm just really excited to see what we can do.
Thank you. Maribeth,
I don't have any comments.
Bill,
I'll beg off this time.
Stephanie.
I don't think I have anything either.
Okay. My one comment would be that we have a Park and Rec vacancy on the board. We will be advertising it through the website and our social media, hopefully, that we will be taking more applications by February 29th, and then that we will start looking at them and then have people come in for interviews in March. Looking forward to trying to fill that vacancy as soon as possible. So that would be it. Any other public comment that we have that was not addressed during the agenda? No? Announcements? Any announcements for John?
Maybe March 4th.
March 4th, correct. Okay, and then we have, between now and then, we'll have the EAC on the 13th and the 23rd. We'll have the zoning hearing board meeting on the 15th. 22nd, okay, okay, 22nd. Zoning hearing board on the 15th, Park and Rec on the 20th, Veterans on the 21st, and our offices will be closed on President's Day on the 19th. This meeting,
Planning Commission on the 27th,
Oh.
I believe.
oh, that's because I
Yes.
thought we were having our next meeting. There we go. Plan Commission on the 27th. Thank you,
Okay.
Susan. The recording of this meeting will be up on our our YouTube channel in the next 2 days. Do I have a motion to adjourn at 8:28?
I'm with.
Bill, do I have a second?
Second.
Stephanie, I'll give it to Stephanie. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.